Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carrie Vitucci, and I will serve as the moderator of today's webinar. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for N4A's fourth installment of the summer webinar series. The webinar is titled FSU Intern Program. We are pleased to have with us today Charlie Hogan, Senior Associate Director, Florida State University. Florida State University was the recipient of the 2020 N4A Model Practice Student Athlete Development Award. The Model Practices Award is presented annually to a university or college that displays best practices in their academic and student-athlete development programming. N4A recognizes two Model Practice Award recipients, one in academics and one in student-athlete development. Charlie, congratulations to you and your team at Florida State. Now, for today's webinar. If you have any questions throughout the course of the live webinar, feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Please note, I will moderate a brief question and answer session at the conclusion of today's webinar. At this time, I would like to pass things off to Charlie so he can kick off today's presentation. Charlie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carrie, for that introduction, and thank you, N4A, for giving us the opportunity to share our intern program. So there's a reason we all do what we do every day. Why are we working in student-athlete academic support? And that reason is simple. We want to help student athletes achieve academic success. Well, one of the ways we can do that is by training the next generation of practitioners. And today I'm going to walk you through our intern program. It's a year-long curriculum that really is working on doing that, training the next generation of practitioners. And just the sense of why we did this program and why was it built from the ground up is simply this. You know, what do I wish someone had taught me when I was first starting out in the profession? What if staff members come to me and said, man, I really wish I'd have gotten better at this when I started in the field? What skills I wish I could have developed? How could I have shrunk the learning curve we all have when we start? And that is what our program is set up to do, is really to try to minimize that learning curve for new practitioners. So why the postgraduate intern model? You know, why not graduate assistants? And I admit, I've got a soft spot in my heart for grad assistants. That's how I got my start in the field. That's how a lot of us started in the field, was as GAs. So why did we choose to go away from the GA model we had at Florida State and use postgraduate interns? Well, there's two big reasons. One, an expanded candidate pool. We were limited to only in-state GAs. Our administration said they were not going to pay out-of-state tuition. So for us at Florida State, that meant we had to hope that the students who were already in school here, who were the sport management, higher ed, sports sci grad students who happened to want to work for us, would be quality hires. We were very limited in what we could get. By expanding to the intern model, we're recruiting nationwide. And in fact, 90% of our hires as interns have been non-Florida grads, non-Florida natives, excuse me. Now, if you know anything about the state of Florida, about 90% of us living here are non-Florida natives. So the math actually works in our favor at that case. And the second piece is really this: salary cost value. We all know with hiring personnel, it's going to come down to that simple fact. What can I get the best bang for my buck? And for us, when we did the math, we actually could afford 1.5 interns for every GA. So suddenly 2 GA spots became 3 interns and we could afford more staff. Now, other positives for interns when compared to GAs: hours available to work. GAs are typically limited to 20 hours a week. Interns, we're working them 40 hours a week. So right in there, double the work value. Maturity. You're hiring a grad assistant. You're hiring someone who's coming out of a bachelor's degree. They're 21, 22. Meanwhile, if you're hiring an intern, they're 23, 24. We've hired 26, 27-year-olds in the past. Much more mature individual. And the second piece of that is they're not in school. They have the focus. When they're at work, they can focus on work. They're not focused on the paper they should have written 3 days ago that's due tomorrow, or the big test coming up. They're actually focused on work and your student athletes in the office. And the biggest thing for me is really the desire to work in the field. If you're hiring someone as a post-grad intern, they want to do this. They want to work with student athletes. You're not typically getting the I just want to work in athletics person, because they can go work in tickets. They can go do something else. This is someone who wants to work in student athlete academic services. So brief history of our program. Our first year started in 2013-14. We just started our 8th group here in August. We have had growth in the program from the beginning. We started with 3. We've expanded it with the success of the program to 5, 6, and now 7 interns just started this August. And then a couple years in the program, we did a shift. The original focus was just on the academic advising side of the house, but we realized we were leaving ed services out completely. And starting in 2015, we added an ed services component and an intern who would work with our staff there. Objectives of the program, very simple. Train and develop individuals to work as student-athlete academic support. Interns are going to do a rigorous training program. You'll see I'm going to walk you through, designed to get them ready to work in the field, and not just work in the field, but hopefully be very good from day one. Again, we're trying to shrink that learning curve. And then just the refrain that I repeat to the interns every summer when they look at me, when I'm making them jump through another hurdle in their minds, there's a method to the madness. Everything we do has a reason. Every exercise we're going to do in the curriculum has a purpose. Hiring process. Our calendar in a normal year, we all know this has not been a normal year. We hire in February. We do a June 1st start date through the end of the next May. So we're hiring in February, giving them a good 60, 90 days out to know when they're going to start with us and really work through that process at that point. So sourcing, where are we finding intern candidates? The NAC to Job Board is a great resource, and the N4A listserv. In fact, some of the best interns we've gotten have been when we asked the question, how did you hear about us? It was because of you, the membership. It was, oh, my supervisor saw your post on the listserv and said, this is something I should really check out. So thank you, N4A. Please continue to send us quality GAs. So when we're looking at resumes, what are we narrowing down? What are the check boxes I'm looking for as I'm working through the resumes of these candidates coming in? Again, I mentioned wants to work in this field. So how do you show me that? Previous GA or intern, you've worked in an academic center, may have been as a tutor or a mentor, but the concept comes back to, what we do and you want to do this. Also, former student athletes, of course. A lot of our membership is former student athletes who chose to work in the field. And just for me, just a thing I love is I love to hire former team captains. If you're a student athlete and you're a team captain on your resume, you're probably getting an interview for the simple fact of this. You've been identified either by a coach or by your teammates as a leader, someone who has showed qualities while you were a student athlete. Those team captains turn out to be some of the best interns we have every year. We do video interviews. We did Skype. We started with Zoom 5, 6 years ago, back when you actually had to tell somebody what Zoom was. Don't have that issue anymore, but we've always done video interviews. Now, staff feedback is key in this process, and that's going to be a refrain you're going to hear me talk about all the way through. But staff feedback is key. It starts with the resumes. Staff, I will send all the resumes. I filter them, and I send all the resumes out to our staff, and they'll send me their list. These are the 15 people I think we should interview. I take the staff composite, and we narrow it down to the ones we actually get to the interview stage. Now, we record the interviews because all staff members are going to watch every interview and give me feedback on the back end. We absolutely tell the candidates they're being recorded. They have an opt-out if they would like it. But if they decide to go through with the video recording, and we also use it on the training on the back end, as much as they hate going back and watching that interview video from 6 months before, it's very helpful. Staff will look at the video, give me their feedback, and then we move forward from there. The deciding factor is often references. Your feedback as a supervisor can really tell me who the intern is. We're basing everything off a 20-minute video interview. We know there are nerves in interviews. People don't typically show who they truly are. The resume says who they are. They're trying to present that they match their resume in the interview. References really is the deciding factor for a lot of our interns, bringing in on this is the person that we really want to have join our staff. We do a written offer process. I tell them it's kind of like a letter of intent because, again, we're hiring 90 days out. I will make a phone call with a verbal offer. I do not let them accept on the phone. This is just a personal preference here because I want them to think about it and to take 48, 72 hours before they make a decision if they're going to join us. For a lot of them, this is the first time they've moved across the country. They need to check with mom and dad, make sure this is the move they want to make. So we're going to give them time to think through everything before they tell us yes or no. And then compensation and benefits. Florida State, we've made an investment. We're paying $13 an hour, 40 hours a week. They are full-time employees. And because they're over that magic 29 and a half hour mark, we provide benefits, the choice we made as a department. So they're getting any benefits a hourly employee at Florida State is getting. So we're paying medical if they choose, a little dental, vision. They also get a touch of retirement during the year here at Florida State. So it's a good package for the year. Placement on staff. And when I mention placement on staff, I'm talking specifically what sports, what advisors, what ed services folks are they working with on our staff. Now, my philosophy is this: I'm trying to hire the best candidates. I'm not intentionally going in February and saying, I need to hire a football intern. I need to hire an ed services intern. Because the fact is this: we're hiring in February for a June 1st start date. If May 15th, I get a call and one of them says life happened and I can't show up, well, if that was my football intern, now I've got to go try to find a football intern and someone to fit in that specific spot on our staff. So what we're looking for is we're trying to hire the best candidates, the best 5, 6, 7 people in the pool. We'll find placement later once they get to us. So placement decisions, we make those before our summer bridge. They start June 1st. That usually gives us about 3 weeks to get to know them as an individual. Again, everything we've done prior to this is based on that 20-minute video interview. And you don't want to make sweeping generalizations about who a person is based on an interview. You don't often see the full personality at that point. This year, COVID again, because we weren't getting the in-person, we started a speed dating process with staff. When our interns started, it's something we will absolutely continue in the future. It was a great benefit to staff and interns. So we did Zoom meetings, 15, 20 minutes, each intern with a couple staff members, low stress. This is strictly a get to know you. This is not about work. Really get to understand who people are before we move forward. And interns, other departmental responsibilities, we're going to base that on who they are as an individual. Again, show me your strengths. If you're really good at graphic design, you may get to be our social media intern that year. We want to meet the individuals where they are and get to see who they are and not really just say, coming in the door, this is the spot you're going to. Now, the interns are going crazy those 3 weeks waiting for placement. I had to share this meme one of the interns this year sent out on our staff group me as the anticipation was building. But the key is, again, we want to make the right fit. So we're not going to rush it. Every year, pairings are different placed on our staff needs because honestly, all 8 years, our staff has looked different. We've had different full-time people. We've had people swap sports around. So it doesn't make sense to pair the same 2 advisors with an intern every year. You want to do it fresh. You want to look at where your staff is and what the best needs are for the office. Full immersion is the goal of this internship. Again, to get them ready for their full-time job, we have to expose them to everything we do. So our interns are in anything our full-time staff does. Coaches meeting, sports oversight meeting, working with the registrar in the certification process. We're not hiding them back in the office. They're exposed to everything. They're going to serve on committees in our department. We're going to put them on our policies and procedures committee and let them have a voice in that room and really give their input. They're responsible for producing minutes for our staff meetings and other departmental meetings. And this is a skill we have to learn. Just like we teach our student athletes how to take notes at a college level when they get here in Summer Bridge, we're going to teach our interns how to take minutes in a meeting, how to listen, and how to take notes in a staff meeting to get what you want to. It is not a skill that everybody has from day one to really listen and retain the information you need in those meetings. So we're going to teach them that. And the entire year, it's a transition. You're going to start duplicating full-time duties, and we're going to hand you full-time responsibilities by the end, so you're ready to go when you get in that next job. We also have a couple opportunities to volunteer to really expand their experience outside of the internship itself. They can volunteer with our life program. Shanika Mungeon and her staff do a tremendous job. It won the N4A model practice a couple years ago. Interns are exposed to that. They also get to work with Ashton Henderson and his crew up in student athlete development for any of his programming that they want to volunteer for outside of our office. So if you're a business major, this is going to sound familiar, and this is coming out of my educational background. We're looking for the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, abilities. What are we trying to build? What are our targets for growth for the interns coming in throughout this process, throughout the entire year? Well, number one, communication. We are going to hit public speaking again and again and again. It is a place that most entry-level candidates have not done a lot of public speaking. And let's be honest, public speaking is a lot of what we do. It may be small group public speaking with teams, recruiting visits, coaching staffs, exec staff, but public speaking is something we do a lot of. And so you have to practice. It is a skill that you must work on. So we're going to expose them. They're going to do public speaking the entire internship. We're going to find ways to get them out in front of people to speak. Other skills, managing priorities, deadlines. The phrase I love is tyranny of the urgent. Which fire is the biggest? Which one do I have to put out now? But also I can't fail to get the one on the side that's not as big right now that'll get big later. We're going to teach how to juggle all those priorities, how to deal with people. It may be dealing with two different advisors you're paired with who are extremely different personalities, a type A versus a type B, and are going to expect different things from me. It may be two different coaching staff. Case in point for myself, I work with men's basketball and women's softball. Those are two different conversations with head coaches and how we approach them, even if the situation is similar. And all of our planning, all of our internship is really built on adult learning theory. And adult learning theory, summed up, is very simple. It's this: adults want to know why they're learning something. And that is a refrain I repeat to the interns all year. Ask why. Ask thought process. When I make a decision, when your advisor makes a decision, ask why, so you have a little more context. So when you're in that position to make that decision in the future, you've got a little more information to help you make the decision. We break our curriculum calendar into 3 simple parts. Kind of follows our academic year. Summer, knowledge, a lot of training, multi-times a week. We're getting in a room, doing it on Zoom a lot this summer, and really focusing on developing those, technical skills, the hard skills, learning the advising piece, learning how all those work together. Fall, we're developing skills. We're going to shift fall and focus a little bit more on the soft skills as well. And then spring, really, this is the focus. Spring is easy. It's focused on getting you a job. All your training shift to the job search process. At this point, we have handed you full-time responsibilities. So you're getting to work as a full-time person with the responsibilities while you still have a safety net with us, but you're getting that experience. One of the tools we utilize in the internship is a Canvas course. Previously we used Blackboard before FSU converted to Canvas. This is I look at it a couple things. It is a repository of information. So any trainings that we have the interns go through, any presentations they sit through, it's all here. Anything that I feel they need to learn about the field at large, any interesting articles. For those of you who are in the field a long time, all the stuff Dr. Gurney used to send us on the listserv, I've compiled here in this Canvas website for them to go back, and we will occasionally go back and say, hey, go read this article. This is what we're going to discuss this week. The other piece of having a Canvas course site is, what's the fun of having a course site if you can't use it to quiz them? As much as they hate it, we have quizzes built in. And then finally, the biggest piece about having a course site built is, just like those of you who teach classes, once you've got it, it's really easy to refresh it for next year instead of having to recreate the wheel. You've got all your information here. You can start it fresh, add the new group, and really save yourself some building time on the back end. Trainings. I'm going to talk through 3 different places we have trainings that we focus for the internships here. These are trainings that come out of our office. They're taught by our staff. And it starts from day one, simple things. First training we do is, who do you need to know? Who are the exec staff? Who are the sport oversights? Who are the head coaches? Who are you riding in an elevator with to get to our office that you need to know who they are? Case in point, if you're riding with the SWA and you know who she is, introduce yourself. Start networking now. Make yourself known as an intern. These are skills you need to have when you step into that next job a year from now. Start knowing who people are. Obviously, NCAA eligibility, Florida State specific academic requirements. We do the DISC personality assessment with our interns. I highly recommend it if you've never done it with your staff. We've also done it as a full staff development. The NCAA often will, pre-COVID, would pay for a DISC assessment for your staff, so it was no cost to you. This is a resource you should look into. It is enlightening for interns to see, okay, here's who my personality is, and here's where my boss's personality is, and how can I relate to them? It is a great resource. I highly recommend. We also bring in our ed services folks to do a couple sessions and explain what is a learning specialist, what is a tutor coordinator, because those are a little bit different on every campus. So how is Florida State set up? What can we do? Diversity and inclusion, we do a lot of trainings on that. We have a specific one. I have Ashton come in and give one that he took from the NCAA, making sure they get that piece as well. And then mental health is key. We bring in our sports meds people, we bring in our psychiatrists on staff, and they do a training with the interns on how to deal with a student athlete in a mental health crisis. Who do you call? Where do you take them when they're having that mental health breakdown in your office? We've had it happen before where interns had to know, okay, I've got to get them here now. This is the person I need to talk to. We're going to make sure that information is covered. Athletic department trainings, and this is something you can do on any campus. So this is all our partners. These are the departments we all work with the most. Compliance, our registrar, financial aid, initial eligibility people. We're going to have the experts come in and teach those sessions because they're the experts. Also, it exposes our interns to who these people are, names and faces start to click, and really just an explanation of what those offices actually do and how we're set up here. Another great resource we use here is our compliance staff does monthly coaches education trainings. We require the interns to do that. Number one, you get to hear the updates from compliance of the NCAA changes. And number two, you get to hear the questions coaches ask and start to see, where a coach is coming from and understand how the rules are going to be applied. And again, it's all building up that knowledge. This is one of the best things we do. University resources. Every campus has resources you can utilize. We have 4 different departments we've partnered here at Florida State. Our undergraduate studies office, we have our interns go through the advising training that any advisor on campus goes through. So we teach Florida State academic requirements. They also hear it from the campus trainer, which is always great to hear it twice because they explain it a little bit different from the campus viewpoint. But it also helps you when you have to communicate with a campus advisor to understand where they're coming from. Office of Human Resources has a ton of great trainings. I've done multiple trainings, different offices I've been on, different campuses I've been on, is always offered through here. Conflict communication, how to get along with a coworker that you just can't stand. Really good trainings we have the interns go take part in. Our Global Engagement Office does a Bridging Culture series, a 4-part series throughout the year where you're exposed to everything an international student goes through. So what's an I-20? What's a visa? What does the process look like? Again, building your knowledge base so when your student comes with you with questions, you don't have to answer them, but you know where to go to get the answers. And then I partnered a couple of years ago with our graduate school. They were gracious enough to let our interns go into some of the sessions they're doing for grad students here. So we target certain sessions, how to write a resume, how to do a cover letter, how to network in academia. Resources we can use here on our campus don't cost us anything, but just a partnership that will benefit our interns. I mentioned public speaking, and we do formal presentations throughout the year. I'm going to walk you through a couple of our presentations, book club, academic scandals, a transition from Division II to Division I, and of course we always do recruiting visit scenarios. So research projects, love this project. It's each intern is assigned an institution that they are prepping for an interview for. I give them a list of questions. They've got to put together a presentation. It is making them learn how to research institutions. So they're looking at who's the director, what's the reporting lines. I either give them a job ad or I simply pull up your website and say, you're replacing Sam Smith at this institution. Research the position. Give them a variety. They do several of these throughout the year. So it's not going to be all Power 5. It's not going to be all mid-majors. going to expose them to our entire field. They've got to give a 20-minute presentation. This really is one of the key speeches we do. And the really cool thing, we've had it happen 5 or 6 times, had it happen again this year, is we'll assign an intern, an institution. 6 months later, they will actually interview and get a job with that institution. So on the screen is a screenshot from the University of Washington presentation. Diamond Brown was an intern a couple of years ago. She got a job at Washington. Had it happen this year with Grand Canyon University. So the interns, when they saw that ad pop up 6 months later, they'd already done the research and knew this is a school in a city I want to live and work in. I'm going to apply. I've already prepped. My prep time is cut from what I would need to do to get ready for an interview. We do book club. This either is an intern's favorite or least favorite presentation we do based on how much they enjoy reading. So throughout the year, we will assign books. If you have not read any of the books on the screen, I highly recommend all of them. None of them are very long. They all have great concepts we can all take back and use in our professional life. So these are group presentations. So the interns actually present these in our staff meeting. So it works as professional development for both the interns and our staff, our full-time staff. Academic scandals. Unfortunately, this is a topic we have to talk about. Most of you are aware in 2007, we had a major violation here at Florida State that generated out of our office. We had people make some unethical choices and it didn't go well for the university. So it would be a disservice if we didn't talk about academic scandals to our interns. So each intern is assigned an academic scandal. They're going to research. They're going to use the LSDBI database. They're going to present on that as well. Ethics, ethics, ethics. In-depth discussion of ethics. Learn and discuss best practices. This gives us an opportunity to explain why we do things the way we do them here. You know, what was the fallout from our scandal? You know, why can't student athletes take online tests in the academic center? There are reasons for this. There are best practices. We talk about how to protect yourself, how to protect your student athlete. It's a very informative presentation. And then transition to Division I. This is a spring presentation. We do this every year coming back from Christmas break. This is a real life scenario. I had a friend in the field who moved to take a director's job at a position at an institution that was transitioning from Division II to Division I. And he got there and realized that all the coaches had only been Division II. So there was a learning curve for coaches. There were things they didn't understand, like APR is real. You can't just run kids off anymore. So the intern is assigned a university in transition. The target audience is you're speaking to experienced coaches. There's an Einstein quote that says, if you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it. Well, we kind of flip it. If you can't explain NCAA eligibility to a 65-year-old, then you don't really understand it. Once you understand it and you can articulate it and explain those sport-specific rules, then you actually understand it and can really, you move forward with it. We do an evaluation process. Each of our terms, our 3 pieces of the intern year has an evaluation process. And we do this to mock a full-time evaluation as much as we possibly can. So 3 form evaluations. Staff feedback, again, is key here. I have the staff send me their feedback and I keep it anonymous. I will compile it. I will mix and match sentences and verbiage so the intern cannot tell where the staff is. So the staff can be honest, sometimes brutally honest, but it's probably the only time you're ever going to get brutal honesty as an intern of this is who you are. Self-evaluation. This is really especially that first time we do this in September every year. It's a learning curve of this is who I think I am. This is who the staff thinks I am. And let's talk about perception versus reality. We have had interns be very shocked in this process when I say 5 staff members tell me you're the most negative person they've ever been around. Complete shock. But there's no point of doing these evaluations if we don't have growth targets coming out of them. So each evaluation points to the next one. The September evaluation points to the one in December. We meet in September. It's here's where you are after 3 months. Here's what the growth targets I want you to focus on between now and December. In December, you look back. Did we meet our growth targets? And then here's what I want you to work on as an individual between now and the end of the internship. And then the last evaluation, the wrap-up meeting at the end is let's take a look back at the entire year. Look how far you've come. Here's what I want you to continue to work on as a new professional in the field. Former interns are a great resource for us. This is something we started heavily last spring when we were all at the house. Zoom interviews, bringing former interns in and have them really talk about their stories with the interns. You know, share their job search stories, explain that it's April, you don't have a job, it's fine. You have to trust the process. It works out in the end. Most everybody gets jobs in the end. You just have to understand and trust how it's going to work. They offer advice. Our group we brought in last spring was phenomenal because they could talk about going through furloughs and the stress of moving to that second job and knowing when it's time to go from the first job and understanding that they've been there, they've sat in the intern's shoes, and it's going to be okay in the end. And the other piece is it really creates network. You know, our former interns are not just names they hear about, they have faces. When they see them at convention, when they reach out to them, they know who they are and can go ahead and start building that network. Spring semester is focused on getting the job, the next job. So everything is job interview prep. Resume, cover letter, we do mock interviews. Zoom has become a reality. So we do Zoom mock interviews, phone mock interviews. We talk about the difference in the two. In-person interviews. Uh, Great notes. I had reading back over some old notes preparing for this presentation our staff gave. An in-person interview is basically 10 impromptu speeches. So how do you prepare for 10 impromptu speeches where you're going to get the same questions asked just a little bit differently by which group you're working with? So a lot of interview prep for our interns there. And then the last day of the internship, when they get the job, we have an intern wall of fame hanging in our intern office. Your last day, you get the job, you get to hang your photo with the logo of the school you got the job with on the wall. We have a staff celebration and really celebrate your success. It's no good having a program that repeats every year if we're not doing, to use a coaching term, self-scouting. If we're not sitting down and looking back every year and saying, what did we do that was good? How can we be better? What's an idea we probably shouldn't bring back anymore? So end of every May, sit down. I sit down with some of our staff members who serve on my intern committee, and we talk about the year. I get feedback from former interns. I love reaching out to the interns who've been out a year, the previous group who've been in a professional role for a year, and ask, what do you wish we'd have given you more of? What can we take back to the program and make better for the next group? Feedback from our current staff. Of course, wrap up meetings for current interns, get their feedback on, okay, do you feel prepared? What do you think you need moving forward? Or again, what advice would you give on how would you change the program? And plan for next year. Go ahead and get on the calendars of all those partners, our compliance staff, our financial aid advisor. Go ahead and let them get on their calendars to train the next group of interns as well. Program outcomes. And to be a good program, it must work a couple ways. Number one, it must work for the department. Departmental effectiveness has been tremendous. Obviously, the investment of us going from 3 to 7 interns shows that outcome. And I can honestly say, we would not have had the intern program in place. There's been a couple times in the 8 years of the program, we would have been in a bad spot as a department. When we had multiple staff members out on maternity leave, we had a hiring freeze, and we had multiple staff members leave. We would not have been as effective, and those losses would have impacted our student athletes, which is what we're working against. With the interns in place, trained, ready to go, we were able to mitigate those losses and get through and survive. For the interns, positive outcome for them is getting a job when they're done. And right now, through 7 complete years, we have a 100% placement rate. All of our interns have gotten jobs. For the country at large, quality candidates across. N4A has done a great job as a network hiring our interns, and 4 former interns have been nominated for Professional Promise Awards within their first 2 years by their director, showing they have done a quality job getting there. And then we are very proud we have 23 former interns still currently in the field right now. Challenges for adaptation on your campus, or as I call this slide, all the reasons you've been thinking this program would never work where you are. So number one, additional salary and benefits costs. We all know that's the number one issue with adding personnel. So you would have to decide and budget and plan to add additional interns. Again, that 29.5-hour rule, if you get above that part, you also have to include benefits. Now for us at Florida State, They're hourly employees. They come out of the same pool of money as our tutors, as our mentors, as our front desk workers, as our class checkers. So it is a budget decision we consciously make on where that money is coming out of. Number two is time to train. All the things I've talked about take time. You must make an investment and decide if you have a staff member who can dedicate that time. Here at Florida State, I've been lucky enough, and now my third director in a row who's really invested in the program and said they're going to make sure I have time to do the training piece. In fact, when my PD was rewritten a couple of years ago, training the interns is now 25% of my job responsibilities. So that time is key and a factor you must have. And third is staff buy-in. So as much time as I spend training the interns, especially when we get in the academic year, fall, spring, I'm getting them 2, maybe 3 hours a week for training. The other 37, 38 hours a week, they're working with full-time staff. If that advisor, if those learning specialists, if they don't mentor and train the interns along the way as well, their ceiling is really limited to how much they can grow. Again, N4A, thank you again for allowing us to present our program. Thank you to the Model Practice Committee for awarding us the award. One of the things I love about N4A is how collaborative we are as an organization. And in that vein, I will absolutely share any of our resources. We'd love to share anything I presented today or anything else we do with any other groups that want to take a piece of it back to your campus to train your interns or GAs. Hope you enjoyed the program. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.